The world was shocked when news spread about the terrible crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216 on December 28, 2024. This regular flight, going from Bangkok to Muan, South Korea, turned into a nightmare, taking the lives of 179 people on board. Jeju Air Flight 2216, a Boeing 737-800, was just a few minutes from landing when the tragedy happened. The flight had 175 passengers from different countries and 6 crew members. Families were excited to see their loved ones, not knowing about the horrible event that would change their lives forever. The crash of Flight 2216 reminds us how fragile life is and how quickly things can go wrong. The victims included families coming back from vacations, students going home for the new year, and people starting new journeys. Their stories, tragically cut short, make us think about the human cost of such disasters. The loss of life, the deep impact on the victims' families, and the questions surrounding the incident require our attention and a promise to prevent similar tragedies in the future. Jeju Air Flight 2216 started as a normal flight from Bangkok to Muan. Passengers got comfortable in their seats, not knowing their trip would soon become terrifying. As the plane got closer to Muan International Airport, the pilots prepared to land, following the usual steps. While landing, the plane ran into a large group of birds. Bird strikes, though somewhat common in aviation, can be very dangerous for planes, especially during important parts of the flight like taking off and landing. This time the bird strike was disastrous, causing serious damage to the plane's landing gear. The pilots, understanding how serious the situation was, immediately made a mayday call. They struggled to control the plane, which was now flying with damaged landing gear. Emergency teams were sent to the runway, their hearts pounding with a mix of hope and fear. Even though the pilots tried bravely to regain control of the damaged plane, Jeju Air Flight 2216 skidded off the runway while landing. The plane, its landing gear unable to hold its weight, slid towards a concrete barrier at the edge of the airfield. The impact with the barrier caused the plane to crash and burst into flames. Emergency teams who had been waiting anxiously on the tarmac rushed towards the wreckage, desperate to save any survivors. They were met with a scene of complete destruction. Miraculously, among the wreckage, 2 crew members were pulled out alive. They were seriously injured, but lucky to have survived the impact. Their survival offered a small sign of hope in the face of unimaginable tragedy. The crash site quickly became a center of intense activity as investigators, rescue workers, and medical personnel gathered. Section 4. Searching for answers, investigations, and scrutiny in the wake of tragedy. Immediately after the Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash, there was a wave of sadness and a strong need for answers. South Korea's Aviation Authority, along with international agencies, started a complete investigation to find out what caused the tragedy. The investigation focused on important areas, including what happened during the bird strike, how the plane reacted to the damage, and the emergency procedures that were followed. Investigators carefully examined the wreckage, studied flight data, and interviewed witnesses, including the 2 crew members who survived. The airport's infrastructure was also looked at closely, especially the solid concrete barrier that the plane hit after skidding off the runway. Critics argued that the barrier, while meant to stop planes from going past the runway, may have made the crash worse. The families of the victims, the aviation industry, and the public deserve answers, and it is the investigators' job to provide them with a thorough and honest explanation of what happened. Section 5. The Boeing 737-800, a history marred by controversy. The Boeing 737-800, the type of plane involved in the Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash, is one of the most used commercial airplanes in the world. However, the 737 MAX, a newer version of the 737, has been surrounded by controversy after 2 fatal crashes in 2018 and 2019. These incidents, which killed 346 people, raised concerns about the plane's design and how automation affects aviation safety. While the 737-800 generally has a good safety record, the recent events with the 737 MAX have made people question the whole 737 family. The Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash, although not connected to the problems with the 737 MAX, has brought back concerns about Boeing's safety practices and whether aviation regulations are strict enough. The crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216 reminds us that even the most advanced planes can have accidents. Section 6, South Korea responds, a nation united in grief and determined to improve. The crash of Jeju Air Flight 2216 deeply affected South Korea, uniting the nation in sadness and leading to a wave of support for the families of the victims. The South Korean government declared 7 days of national mourning, flags were flown at half-mast, and condolences came in from all over the world. President Yoon Suk-yeol expressed his deep sorrow over the tragedy, offering his condolences to the victims' families and promising a thorough investigation into the crash. He ordered immediate inspections of all Boeing 737-800s operating in the country and pledged to improve aviation safety rules to prevent similar incidents from happening again. Candlelight vigils were held throughout the country, and people lined up to donate blood and offer their condolences. The tragedy has started a national discussion about aviation safety, with calls for more investment in air traffic control, stricter maintenance rules, and better pilot training. Section 7, Aviation Safety, a Global Concern. The Jeju Air Flight 2216 crash is a stark reminder that aviation safety is not just a national issue, but a global concern. The International Air Transport Association, IATA, expressed its condolences after the crash and repeated its commitment to working with airlines, governments, and regulators to make aviation safer worldwide. The organization stressed the importance of sharing best practices, investing in new technologies, and creating a culture of safety within the aviation industry. The investigation into the crash involves experts from South Korea, the United States, and Boeing, showing how connected the aviation industry is globally and the need to work together to improve safety. These incidents are painful reminders of how important it is to constantly improve aviation safety and to learn from past mistakes to prevent future tragedies.